Hello everyone, I am Dominique Amara, and it has been a while since I last did a video. It's actually been almost a year, but there is a reason for that, and so I wanted to talk about that in today's video and also just tie it in with the theme of trusting and waiting on God. So let's go ahead and get started. So last year for me was filled with a lot of challenges. There were a lot of things that I dealt with that really, it really was hard for me. Primarily just a lot of physical challenges. And I'm just going to kind of briefly go through those things so you guys can get an idea of what exactly I went through. So in January of 2023, I brought in that new year with COVID. So I was sick bringing in the new year of 2023. And so, got through that and made a full recovery from that. But then a lot of other just things started to happen. So in January of 23, I also dealt with a migraine, which I hadn't had one of those in almost 10 years. So that came out of nowhere. And then I started having random body aches. Went to the doctor. They weren't able to figure out what was going on there. Also had some dental and jaw issues. Now, one of those dental issues was totally my fault. But the other with my jaw, they did so many x-rays trying to figure out what was wrong, but they couldn't find the issue with my jaw. So I was just dealing with random pain there. One of the worst things I dealt with last year was something called middle ear myoclonus, which is essentially a rare form of tinnitus, and it causes some muscle in your ear to thump and twitch and flutter and all kinds of stuff. And I've had that since I was a child, and I was formally diagnosed in 2022, but last year it just really got really bad, to the point where I couldn't really sleep. I would say I was getting like maybe 5 hours of very broken sleep because of the thumping in my ear, and it was just so frustrating. And really for months I was just dealing with this issue with my ear. And of course, when audiologists, doctors, they pretty much just told you, you got to learn to live with it, and there are things that you can do to lessen it. But it was just hard. One of those things that's really difficult to just deal with. It's very frustrating and irritating. So that was one thing, and that was going on for months, right? Then in August, I got a kidney stone. Don't know where that came from, to be honest. Also was dealing with some stress at work. So I think some physical issues I was dealing with was a result of that. So stress at work. So after dealing with all those different physical issues, of course that led to other physical issues, because when you're stressed, it just adds to it. So I started dealing with eye twitches in November of last year, and then a couple of weeks ago I dealt with COVID again. So it's just been kind of like this back-to-back type of deal with all these different physical challenges. And the point of this video is not to go into detail and just complain about all of those things, but I did want to just give you like an overview of what all the different things that was happening, because it was so much. So I just felt like I needed to at least say that so you have an idea of exactly what I was dealing with. So I think one of the main issues, though, out of all of the things, was the middle ear myoclonus. Like I said, it made it hard for me to sleep. It was a struggle. And during that time, like when you start losing sleep, that's when you start kind of losing hope. It's like, at least for me, I can't speak for other people, but for me, it just felt hopeless. Like there's no way I'm gonna get better, or it just like nobody could help me out, and everything I was trying wasn't working. So it was very frustrating. And that's kind of when the frustration really started to sit in, right? So my initial response to all of these different things happening, I figured, why not just, pray about all these things, watch some healing testimonies on YouTube, listen to healing scriptures, read scripture, and those things are wonderful. I'm not saying not to do those things. It's great to do that. But I think for me, I got so caught up in wanting a miraculous healing. Like, I wanted to pray about these things and then wake up the next morning and they be gone. God can do that, and he has done it for many people. But for me, I was not getting that healing that I wanted, right in the time that I wanted it. I wasn't getting that. So I started to feel frustrated. Like I said, that frustration started to set in. I was tired. I was dealing with all these things. And so frustration led to bitterness. And I really started to have questions. It's like, okay, I'm praying, but I'm still not feeling better. I'm still sick. What is going on? And so I came very close to doubting God's goodness and his plans for me. Even though God has, honestly, last year, even though I went through so much, God spoke a lot to me. And some of those things I'm, not going to go into detail in this video about, because it's things that I probably need to keep to myself for now. But God spoke to me so much during that time, even though I was getting this close to losing hope. But God did step in, and one thing he told me was to not let bitterness set up shop in my heart. Because that was what was happening. It was just like, will you please heal me, please, right now? But I couldn't. I was getting bitter because I couldn't make him heal me, right? God is God, and he does what he does when he wants to do it. And it was not on my timing. It was definitely God's timing. So the problem was, I was so focused on the problems. It's like I couldn't see past those things. All I saw were the issues. And but God challenged me with, telling me, hey, don't let bitterness set up shop, because he knew that would probably lead me down a path I didn't want to take. So I said, okay, I'm going to heed God's advice, and I'm going to have a different response. So instead of me just focusing so much on the issue, I had to place my focus elsewhere. So Ephesians 4:31, and this scripture is talking about bitterness, right? It says, and other things as well, but it says, get rid of all bitterness, rage, and anger, brawling and slander, along with every form of malice. So I knew I had to get rid of the bitterness in my heart, the things that I was feeling about my situations. I had to get rid of that bitterness that was setting up shop. So how did I do that? I continued doing what God told me to do. The initial things, like still working. God placed me in my job, and I'm here for a reason. Therefore, I need to be focused when I'm at work. I need to be obedient and do what God tells me to do, right? And work as though I'm working for God and not for man. All those things. I knew that I needed to, be a good worker. So I continued to go to work, even though I was struggling, all right, off of 5 hours of sleep. I still did the best that I could. I was still going to church. I didn't give up on God. I was still volunteering, still being on the worship team, still doing the tech booth, still doing those things. And I was still reading my Bible, still spending time with God in the mornings. And there were a lot of mornings I did a lot of crying. It was like, God help, please. But he did, he did encourage me in those moments, right? So even though I was going through things, I was still getting closer to God at the same time. It was beautiful to see. And not only was I getting closer to God, but I was helping my husband as well get closer to God. We started doing a Bible reading plan together, and just seeing how God has been, how he's been growing through growing spiritually, and just he's totally kind of a different person now. Just seeing my husband do that or go through that process it's been amazing. And all of that was happening while I was sick. It was like I wasn't feeling good, but God was still very much in my story. And so it was beautiful. And honestly, like I said, there's been a lot of things that have happened, just blessings and amazing things that happened in 2023, despite everything going on. So what was God's response to my obedience, to me still doing the things he told me to do, to me still not giving up on him, still spending time with him? What was his response? So things started to get better for me. Honestly, it wasn't in my timing. Things didn't happen right when I wanted them to, but God still brought healing to me in different ways. Some of the things just disappeared. Honestly, the body aches disappeared. The jaw issues disappeared. The kidney stone, I was in pain for a week, and then I was not. I mean, I assumed that I passed the stone. I don't know. I was looking intently trying to figure out what that was going to look like, but I never saw a kidney stone at any point. But after a week, the pain totally disappeared. And then with the ear issue, God kind of led me to a Facebook group of people who also dealt with the same thing, and they were recommending magnesium pills. So I started taking those, and within a week, I was able to sleep 8 hours again, 7 to 8 hours a night. It hasn't completely taken away the issue, the thumping and all of that in my ears, but it has calmed it down about 90%. So I can take a 90% decrease for sure. So I've been able to sleep better, and I'm just so thankful that God, kind of led me to something that would be helpful for me. He didn't completely take it away, even though I am still praying that he does. He still helped me in some way and led me to something that will be helpful for me. Also, the eye twitch, I still deal with that. It's kind of weird. It comes and goes, but I think that's just a reaction to all of the stress I've been under as well. And so he's just been good. I mean, I got through COVID again. All these things, he was there and he healed me and he helped me. It just was not in my timing. I wanted it at a certain time, and that is not what he did. So I had to learn how to trust and wait on God. I can't say that I waited patiently because I was struggling so much, but I did learn the importance of just trusting God and waiting on him. So another way that God encouraged me during this time was also by just speaking through his word. So like I said, I was still reading the Bible, still spending time with God. So speaking through his word, also speaking through other people. So my family, my counselor, just people speaking words of encouragement to me really just gave me the strength to keep going and to keep being obedient in what God has told me to be obedient in. He also spoke to me through sermons. I honestly looked at a lot of sermons on YouTube, a lot of encouraging videos on YouTube. It's some people that I really love following. They have really great videos. So I was looking at a lot of that, and I felt God's presence, even though I wasn't seeing what I wanted to see. So what did I learn, right? What did I learn in all of that? Because I did not do any videos last year. I was so just focused on what was going on. I learned the importance of trusting and waiting on God. Sometimes he doesn't respond the way you want him to, when you want him to. I wanted a miraculous healing, but God didn't give me that miraculous healing. He did it slowly and in his timing and in his way. He wanted me to just accept the situation. A lot of times we're like, oh no, don't accept that. That's from Satan, which honestly, I think some of these things, well, all of these things I was going through was definitely demonic. I really believe that this was a demonic attack. But he wanted me to just accept the situation. Don't deny reality, right? But just give it to him. Continue to pray. Say, hey, God, I don't know what else to do about this, right? But I'm going to give it to you, and I'm going to just continue doing what you've called me to do. I'm going to continue spending time with you, and I'm just going to accept that this is the situation right now. But in time, I knew he was going to come through for me. So that was another thing that I learned. And then another thing is to, want the healer more than you want the healing. And that was really hard for me, because when you have all these physical things going on, it's so hard because that's all you see. You can see physical things. You can feel those things. But I had to really build my faith and just say, God, I don't know what's going on, but I'm just going to trust you anyway. And it was hard. I still struggle with it too, but it was a lesson that needed to be learned. And same thing with you guys. That's trusting and waiting on God is imperative. We have to do those things, because sometimes he's not going to just show up and fix everything right then and there. It can be a waiting game, and you just have to take it one step at a time. When he tells you to do one thing, just do it and let everything else play out, right? Accept what's going on. This is the reality, but I'm still going to give it to you, and pray that things change, and that you come through for me. So I wanted to leave you guys with 3 scriptures. The first one is 2 Corinthians 12, 7 through 10. This scripture is about Paul and his thorn in the flesh. So let's read that. It says, therefore, in order to keep me from becoming conceited, I was given a thorn in my flesh, a messenger of Satan to torment me. 3 times I pleaded with the Lord to take it away from me. But he said, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest on me. That is why, for Christ's sake, I delight in weaknesses, in insults, in hardships, in persecutions, in difficulties. For when I am weak, then I am strong. So we don't know what Paul's thorn in the flesh was. It could have been physical, mental. I don't know what it was. But considering that it's called thorn in the flesh, I'm going to assume it's physical. So, right. So he had something going on. And God said, my grace is sufficient. Paul was like, please make this go away. But God's grace was sufficient. And so we have to know that in our weaknesses and our struggle, that God is strong. He's given us the strength that we need. We are strong when we are weak. And it seems so, it doesn't, like, that contrast seems weird. Like, how can you be weak and strong at the same time? Obviously, with God empowering us, we can be strong. And so that's another thing that I learned in all of this. The next scripture is Psalm 46, 1 through 3. This scripture is about God being our refuge. So it says, God is our refuge and strength, an ever-present help in trouble. Therefore we will not fear, though the earth give way and the mountains fall into the heart of the sea, though its waters roar and foam and the mountains quake with their surging. Don't let your problems push you further away from God. Let those issues, all of those, the mountains quaking and all kinds of stuff that's going on in your life, let it bring you closer to God. Because a lot of times God does use difficulties to bring us closer to him. Imagine if life was perfect. I mean, then what would we be coming to God for if our life was perfect, right? You know, it'd just be like, well, I don't need God, but you need him. You really need him, and those difficulties in our lives help us to realize how much we do need him. So don't let your problems push you further away. There's no place better to be than to be with God. You know, there's no better place. So let him be your refuge. And the last thing is to remember that God works all things out for your good according to his purposes, according to his plan. He's making you more and more like him. He's conforming you into the image of Christ. And that's going to mean that you're going to go through difficult things. That's just kind of the way it is, right? So Romans 8:28 through 29 says, and we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. For those God foreknew, he also predestined to be conformed to the image of his Son, that he might be the firstborn among many brothers and sisters. So God is using your trials to make you like Christ. And you just have to remember that this is for your good, and it is also for his purpose and for his plan. He's going to use you for his purpose, and his purpose will prevail. Like there's no stopping God's plan. He's going to do what he's going to do. And you can choose to be a part of that by letting him shape and mold you in the fire. Okay? He can refine you in the fire so that you come out like pure gold. And so that's what I'm going through that process, and that's what I'm learning, and that's what I hope that you guys feel encouraged in, as you may not be going through anything physical, but it might be financial or something in your marriage. As you go through these things, remember that God is refining you and making you more like Christ. So I hope this video has been helpful. I hope that you guys have felt encouraged to keep pushing on, keep moving on when things are getting kind of crazy. All right? Because our lives, things in our life, things come up just so randomly, and it's nothing you can really do to stop those random occurrences, right? But what you can do is lean on God and keep praying despite what you see. So have faith, guys, and I hope that this video has been helpful. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching.